You said that you want to help get a decent deal for Britain in its negotiations with the EU. I want to use my position, particularly with the European media, to make sure that French and German and Belgian voters put huge pressure on their MEPs to say, come on, let's have a common sense trade deal. Why would they listen to you after you've insulted them so much over the years?
Oh, I've never insulted the European people. Not once. Not once in 20 years.
What about the European Council president, former president, who had the charisma of a damp rag?
Oh, come on.
What about him?
Oh, come on.
What about him?
Do you know something? In Prime Minister's questions, every single Wednesday, things a lot ruder than that get said. Go to the Australian Parliament, and what gets said there is unrepeatable on a programme like yours.
But it got you noticed, didn't it? And that's why you used it. You got you noticed.
Do you know something?
Didn't it?
Do you know something?
Yeah.
It was a complete off-the-cuff comment. I hadn't pre-planned it. It just happened. But the point is that joshing about with a man who'd been appointed on a salary bigger than Obama that nobody had ever heard of struck me as fair comment. Look, let's just get...
Here's your pitch.
Let's just get one thing straight in answer to your question. OK. I have, over the years, worked for French companies. I've had businesses in Italy. I've married a German. I am not anti-European in any way at all. But I think that what now masquerades as Europe is a mistake and needs changing. So, do I think there are people out there in Europe that listen to what I have to say? Yes, I do.
But this was your post-referendum pitch to the European Parliament. This was last June. I know that virtually none of you have ever done a proper job in your life,
Quite right.
or worked in business,
Quite
or
right.
indeed ever created a job.
Quite right.
And you think
Quite
that
spot on.
endears
Spot on.
you to them.
Well, let me tell you something.
And you're the bridge for Britain to get a good deal as a result of this.
Hang on. Well, yes, actually, I do. So here's the point. The United Kingdom has just voted to leave the European Union. There's a debate here.
When you said this?
There's a debate here 4 days later. So I get up to speak, and 400 of them start booing and jeering. And I thought...
As they still do.
And I thought...
As they still do,
Do you
Nigel
know
Farage,
what?
as they still do.
Well, I mean, if they want to do that... So I thought, let them have a piece of it. What I'm saying here is this. It would be a bad thing for the peoples of Europe if the political class of Europe willfully go for a bad deal with Britain because they want to punish us, they want to discourage other people from leaving the club. And I do not think that across much of Europe that the political elites are held in any high degree of regard. So you can certainly accuse me of attacking the European elites, but my goodness me, they've given me some too.
All right, here, this from the German car manufacturers. You told everyone in Britain, of course, the Germans will never allow tariffs to be slapped on their car exports to Britain.
Well, they wouldn't want it.
They wouldn't want it. OK, so what did Chancellor Merkel tell the world? She said the internal cohesion of the EU would come before defending German exports to the UK. The Association of Car Manufacturers says the future of the EU is more important than short-term exports.
Well, do you know what? This actually plays into my hands even more. This gives me an even bigger card than I thought I had to play. Because here is my chance.
They don't want your card. That's what they're telling you.
Oh, no. But again,
they don't want your card.
Oh, come on. The relationship between big business, big banks and big politics is what it is. They don't want things to change. They like the status quo the way that it is. But I bet you that if we went to a bar in Munich this evening and met some German car workers and had this conversation, what they care about are their jobs. What they care about are cars being sold.
It may be, but the bosses aren't going to
go
your route just for that.
I'm not talking to the bosses. I'm talking to the European people.
They're the ones who make the decisions.
Well, I'll tell you something. Actually, you're wrong.
And they're backing Merkel.
You're wrong.
They're
you're
backing
wrong,
Merkel.
and let me tell you why you're wrong. We are due to leave the European Union at the end of March 19, OK? The European elections take place a few weeks later. What I want to try to do, there's no guarantee of success, what I want to try to do is to make sure that those MEPs who are up for re-election are asked by their electorates, are you going to vote for a sensible trade deal? Are you going to vote for our jobs? Because, you know, one thing's for certain, there are 1.3 million people in Germany whose jobs rely on exports to the UK market.
And they're prepared to take the hit. This is what they're telling you.
Merkel is telling you in your heart
why
of
don't you
hearts?
take seriously what they say to you?
Because you're talking about a political class who I've got no respect for at all. Let me ask you...
They seem to have been ruling for quite some time.
Honest, because they've been given no option.
And Merkel still has the polls pretty much in her favour.
I do
pretty
not,
much in her
I
favour.
do not believe, no, you may be right, I may be wrong. I do not believe that if we went directly to those 1.3 million people, be they in pharmaceuticals, be they in engineering, be they in car manufacture, if we ask those 1.3 million people whose jobs depend on trade with the UK, is a trade deal a priority for you over and above maintaining the EU as it is, I think I know what the answer
But
is.
why is it you can't understand what they're saying to you? They're saying to you that actually something matters more to them than it does to you.
Do you know something? For 20
This
years...
really matters to them.
Do you know
Free
something?
movement.
Do you know something? For 20 years, every single political party, virtually every national newspaper, every broadcaster, every trade union, and every business organisation told me I was wrong and that none of them would ever listen to me. And we're just about to go into a general election where half of that group now support Britain leaving the European Union. You can change opinion.
Yeah, and the country is just as divided as ever on it. We had the latest YouGov poll, which came after Theresa May announced the election. 44% believe Brexit is right, 44% believe it's wrong, and 12% don't know.
Well, actually, I've seen
It's a
polls suggesting...
deeply divided
I've seen polls
country
suggesting...
on this issue, isn't it?
I saw two big polls last month, one 69% and one 70%, accepting the result and wanting the government to get on with it.
They may accept the result, but this is 44% who... They're on level pegging. The sides who think that Brexit is right, the side who think it's wrong.
I don't buy that. As I say, if you ask people... of those who didn't agree with Brexit, there's a significant number of them who are Democrats, accept the result and accept that we're going to get on with it. And you could argue, if you talk about division, that the division was there way before the referendum, which is why it came to a head in the first place.
Let's talk more about trade. You came back from the States in January. You said you were beside yourself with excitement. You've been told by the Trump camp, yes, but you've been told by the Trump camp that you could get a trade deal done and dusted, your words, in 90 days.
Yeah.
The Trump team, you said, was offering Britain a great gift, not just for business, you said, not just for trade, not just for investment, but actually to strengthen our hand in negotiating with the European Union. Didn't take long for that to crumble away, did it?
Well, because the British government can't play. They're not allowed to. You see,
the London Times reported a week ago...
It's a nonsense story.
Oh, is it? Really?
Story.
The White House had said there's a realisation a trade deal with the EU was more important to US interests than a post-Brexit deal with Britain.
I know the Trump team. I don't believe that for one moment. But...
Why don't you accept you've been stiffed?
Well, I tell you what I do accept, and it's this, that I think there was genuine shock amongst the American administration that the British government was not in a position to accept their generous offer and to sit round the table and to start negotiation. And in a sense, we get to the core of why the EU has been bad for Britain in a 21st century global economy. As a result of being part of this 19th century concept called a customs union, we are banned, barred, forbidden from making our own trade deals anywhere else in the world.
Okay, you've made the point, but the US has stiffed you. The Trump administration has stiffed. Last December, the incoming Commerce Secretary, Wilbur Ross, was telling countries to use Brexit to steal business from Britain. He actually told them. He actually addressed...
Well, of course.
Separate.
Of course. Any change...
That's a friend of Britain. No. That's somebody queuing up to offer Britain a great trade deal.
Well, he was speaking at a business seminar. Look, in business, all the time, what you seek...
You think these people are your friends?
Competitive advantage. Do I think that Trump instinctively believes that Britain is a friend? Yes, I do, 100%, unlike the man that preceded him.
And is he going to do anything for Britain that isn't directly in his interest?
If the British government say yes...
He won't.
If the British government say yes, and they've said no. They've said, I'm very sorry, but that man, Mr Juncker, no one ever voted for him, but that man, Mr Juncker in Brussels, says, we're not allowed to negotiate with you. It rather sums up why we have to leave this union.
A trade deal with America done and dusted in 90 days, it's not going to happen, is it?
What if the British government said yes to it?
It's not going to happen.
Our EU bosses
Have you ever negotiated a trade deal?
No, I haven't.
No, you haven't. So you have no idea what's involved
in a trade
deal.
But I tell you what I have done. Unlike most people in this building, I have put together business propositions, deals, shipped stuff all over the world. I actually have got some idea.
But the complexities of a trade deal, you've never done that.
Of course. And
you've never done that, have you?
Isn't it wonderful when I hear people telling me it could take 5 years, 10 years? Australia.
I didn't say that. I just said that you didn't. I just said you didn't know what it's involved.
Well, I tell you what I do know. Where you've got will, you can do what you like in life. And sadly, the British government, and I think we should have ignored the EU, I think we should have just gone straight in to a trade negotiation. We didn't do so. I'm sorry about it.
Why aren't you standing again for Parliament in Westminster?
Because...
Eighth time lucky. Could be eighth time lucky.
Well, you know, it's very interesting. A lot of commentators like you say that. But, I mean, do just bear one thing in mind, which might be useful for the viewers of this programme. And that is that in 2014, I led a political party to winning a national election, something that had not been done since 1906 by a party that wasn't Labour or the Conservatives. So there you go.
A party that's now in tatters, isn't it?
I wouldn't say it's in tatters. I would say what's happened to it is it's been so successful, so dramatically successful. I mean, 2 years ago, in the last general election, we had a British Prime Minister, David Cameron, a Chancellor, George Osborne, calling UKIP negative, backward, Little Englanders. Now we have a Prime Minister, Mrs May, who on the face of it has taken on the whole manifesto.
And now you have your party's biggest funder, ex-funder, who says the party is run by a team of circus clowns, stuffed with people who use it as a piggy bank rather than a vehicle for political change. Come on. The party's falling apart.
We've got lots and lots of donors, all of whom...
Oh, this man doesn't matter anymore?
Of course he does. Of course he does.
Aaron Banks doesn't matter anymore. Couldn't care less.
No, I could. Every single one of our big donors is a self-made entrepreneur.
But this is your achievement that he's talking about.
Rather like Trump, they say what they think.
This is your achievement he's talking about. A team of circus clowns. You built it up. You aligned it.
Can you think...
You signed off on the policies.
Can you think...
A team of circus clowns.
Can you think of a political party in the West, in modern times, that's been more successful than UKIP? Because I can't.
You haven't got a single seat in Westminster. You haven't got a single seat in Westminster.
We've changed British history.
So maybe your time's over. Maybe it's time to just leave the scene.
I didn't come into politics for a career. I came into politics to try and change things, and boy, we've done that.
And Mr Banks, who was going to stand as your candidate in Clacton, has decided he isn't because the party, he says, is going in entirely the wrong direction, and he doesn't want to wage a war on the Muslim religion, which he thinks the party is intent on doing at the moment.
What he actually said
You can't even hold on to somebody like that.
What he actually said was he wants a total ban on all Muslim immigration, which has gone further than the ban. Look, self-made individuals...
I'm just telling you what he said.
Self-made individuals...
He doesn't want a war against the Muslim religion.
Nor do I, and I never have done.
Well, he thinks the party does.
And I was leader of this party...
He clearly thinks the party does.
I was leader of this party for a very, very long time, and I was very careful that we didn't align with the Geert Wilders and people like that who wanted a war on Islam. I've never wanted that.
But they and the other Eurosceptic parties aren't doing well. You pledged to help them as well, didn't you? You thought there would be a big Eurosceptic wave.
There is. It's happening.
Look at Norbert Hofer, defeated in Austria, Geert Wilders, defeated in the Netherlands, the AFD, badly down.
If we'd sat here 5 years ago and I'd said to you that a presidential candidate from the Austrian Freedom Party would come within a whisker of winning the Austrian presidency, you'd have laughed at me. Euroscepticism is on the march everywhere, and it comes in many shades.
We had in 2002, we had Marine Le Pen's father actually make it to the first round as number 2 in the first round of the presidential election.
And he got 22% or whatever it was. Yeah. It was a slightly freakish situation that got him there. But actually, yeah.
So it's not so unheard of.
Go back to 2000.
It's not so unheard of. But they don't look in a very good state now, and she doesn't look in a position to win an election in France.
Well, I tell you what.
Does she?
I tell you what. She's not going to get 22%. She'll get a lot more than that.
She might. She's not going to win, is she?
It looks unlikely, but you never know. After all, Brexit was never going to happen.
Despite your claim that she has shifted the centre ground in France forever, you said, forever. That's a big claim in politics. Anybody who claims anything forever in politics...
You see, I think what we're actually witnessing is the European project dying before our eyes. It doesn't work. There's very little residual love for it. Yeah, I accept there are very powerful institutions that still back and support the status quo. But yeah, honestly, the life of this project is now time limited.
That's a big claim. But then that's your speciality, is big claims, isn't it?
And getting it right.
And getting noticed.
No, and getting it right.
Andrew Wigmore, who was head of communications for Leave.eu, he said, you all looked at the Trump campaign, which was peddling all sorts of nonsense, getting massive traction, and you took your cue from them, didn't you? He put it, outrageously provocative tweets, and they were all immigration-led. So when it comes to the bad stuff, we totally took the Trump rule book and applied it here in Britain. And we quickly discovered
Well,
it worked.
He might have done, but...
Wasn't that your philosophy too?
Yeah, but to be honest, the Trump campaign didn't get going until the referendum was over. So the time lag here doesn't really work.
But the messages were deliberately inflammatory, weren't they?
No, I tell you what the messages
Which
were.
a lot of people condemned. And
I
then
tell you what the
media rose to the thing, and you got extra publicity from it. You stirred it up, didn't you?
Oh, I'm good at doing that. Yes, I'm good at
Whether
getting,
you believed
I'm good at
in
getting
it or not.
I'm good at getting a debate going. I wouldn't deny that for a moment.
But you stirred it up. Outrageously provocative tweets. That's what he talked about.
Well, if I tell you something, you look at my Twitter profile, my Facebook profile. You can go back for the last 5 years. There is very little, as an objective journalist, that you would say was outrageous. Pushing the edges
okay, how about this?
Pushing the edges of debate, yes, I get that.
June last year, you said the possibility of attacks by migrants, like those that had taken place in Cologne, would be the nuclear bomb of the referendum.
I think they were in the end. I have to say, I think...
Which was deemed to be outrageous scaremongering.
I think if I look back on that referendum, and there were lots of factors that led to a Brexit vote, despite a massive establishment attempt to get us to vote Remain, I do think what Mrs. Merkel did made a very big difference to the British referendum, and I genuinely mean that.
Let's just stay, if we may, with some of the techniques that you used. Aaron Banks said, we picked fights with just about everyone and fed off the phony outrage of the mainstream media.
Well,
that was one of your tactics as well,
If you read that book, The Bad Boys of Brexit, written by Aaron Banks, what you will see 20 or 30 times in that book are me having big arguments with him and Andy Wigmore.
So you're dissociating yourself from that, are you?
I did not support everything they did during the referendum campaign.
What about the picking of the fights with just about everyone? You enjoyed that?
No, I don't believe in doing that.
Feeding off the phony outrage.
Do you know? Well, you can do that sometimes, obviously, but
like your Obama quote, for instance, last November, when you called him, what was it, a loathsome creature?
Yeah, that's about
That's
right.
what you called him. Gratuitous insult, wasn't it? Just designed to get you some publicity.
Well, he'd insulted the whole British people. He'd insulted the British nation for 8 years.
Why had he insulted them?
He said we'd be at the back of the queue.
That's not an insult.
He looked down.
That's not an insult, is it?
He looked down his nose at us, and he saw Germany as his primary ally in Europe. He believed in a United States of Europe.
And that's a reason to call him a loathsome
led by
creature?
Mrs. Merkel.
That's a reason to call him a loathsome creature? That's borderline racist, isn't it?
Sorry.
Isn't it? To call him a loathsome creature? It's borderline racist, isn't it?
Why?
John Woodcock, MEP, says disgusting lack of respect, clear racist undertones.
Can you please explain why?
Because would you have said that about anybody else?
Yes.
Have you?
I've said worse, according to you.
Have you
called
anybody else a loathsome creature?
Oh, I think I've said all sorts of things here to people. Look, the idea that you can't make a comment about someone because they're female or they're Jewish or they're whatever is nonsense.
The other thing that Mr. Wiggins said was that foreigners had to be in the firing line pretty much all the time. The outrageous tweets were about immigrants.
Nothing to do with me, all right? Nothing to do with me. And look, what did I do in that referendum campaign? I started that referendum campaign in July 15, all right, before everybody else had even got mobilised. And my referendum campaign was about touring the country, about speaking to packed town hall meetings, about motivating and mobilising people who genuinely don't vote to get out and vote.
And you did it by pressing the fear button.
I did it by saying, we want our country back, we want our borders back,
pressing
we
the
want
fear
our
button.
pride back, we want our place in the world back, we want our relationship with the Commonwealth back.
You called the other side Project Fear,
do you know
but
something?
you were pressing the fear button, weren't you?
I disagree completely.
Why?
I think
Let's listen to some of the messages. Are you concerned about the amount of crime being committed in the UK by foreign criminals? That's pressing the fear button.
Whose message is that?
This is leave.eu.
Well,
that was your side in the Brexit campaign. That was leave.eu.
I led the UKIP campaign.
Yes.
All right?
But you were part of leave.eu.
I supported leave.eu.
Yes, exactly.
As indeed.
You didn't dissociate yourself from these messages.
As indeed did 18 different political organisations, including the New Communist Party of Great Britain. All right? Did I support all the...
Pick your friends carefully.
Did I... Well, politics, referendum, strange bedfellows. Did I support everything leave.eu said and did? No, I did not.
But you didn't come out and repudiate it, did you?
When a campaign's on, all sorts of people are doing things. I mean, the thing that made me the most angry actually wasn't leave.eu. The thing that made me the most angry was what Vote Leave did, with this ridiculous 350 million a week figure. And
Yeah,
that made me, and that really upset me.
But
and
you didn't say until the
sat
day
down,
after.
I sat down with Michael Gove in a private room and said, drop it.
Yeah, but he didn't. But
he
you
didn't.
didn't come out and go public about the mistake which you said this was
When
until the day
when
after.
you're fighting
The day after.
When you're fighting an enemy, you don't shoot your own side in the back.
You're either interested in truth or you're not.
You don't
and
shoot-
you knew this was untrue.
And which is why I fought so hard against
But you were prepared to let it stand in public. You had 1,000 opportunities to repudiate it, and you chose not to. You chose not to.
You don't shoot your own side in the back.
Even for the sake of honesty, the British public aren't
Tell you
worth
what,
honesty.
I tell you what. Tell me what I said that was wrong.
I'm telling you that
what you're doing is-
you knew
what you're doing
you knew
is-
that this was wrong. You let it stand.
It was a silly figure.
You let it stand.
I never defended it.
You let it stand.
I was very.
You flew under that flag.
Well, because you can't shoot your own side in the back. Otherwise the story is divisions.
Well, what do you
splits.
care about most? Your own side or the truth?
Winning the most important constitutional battle for 300 years in the United Kingdom.
So the end justifies the means, does it?
You tell me what I did wrong.
I'm just saying.
No.
You let it go.
But I think it's very
you
interesting.
let it go.
I think it's very interesting.
You refuse to repudiate it.
At the moment, so far in this interview, you haven't come up with one thing that I said that was inaccurate or wrong. But if you can, I'm all in.
I didn't say you were either inaccurate or wrong. I'm saying you refuse to repudiate this. You know what I'm saying.
I refuse to.
You know what I'm saying.
I refuse to divide the Leave camp. Yes.
You refuse to stand up for the truth in public because the British public weren't worth it.
I didn't divide the Leave camp. No.
Weren't worth it, were they?
And it was a minor issue compared to the lies of the other side. It was a minor issue.
Do you think? I mean, you got your way. Britain is leaving the EU, but the things that Aaron Banks and the other people in the Leave.eu confessed to, which was the picking of fights, the outrageously provocative tweets, the insults. Has it made Britain a nastier country, do you think?
Well, that wasn't. And again, you've got to stop judging me by what other people said.
I'm not judging you. I'm asking you. I'm asking you the question. Has it made Britain a nastier place?
No, I don't think it does. I think during the campaign it was, and I think the immediate aftermath was pretty bloody.
Signs like "Leave the EU, no more Polish vermin," T-shirts that say "Yes, we won, now send them back."
So do you think the abuse was all on one side?
I'm not saying it was, but I'm asking you about the abuse that came from your side.
What about the abuse that came towards me?
Well,
or is that of no interest?
Yeah, but I talked to other people. I've talked to other people about the abuse they give you and the methods they use. I'm talking to you about your methods. You know very well what I'm trying to do.
But it's all presented in one. It's all presented as a one-way debate, and actually,
of course, I'm talking to you about what you did and your side. I talked to them about their side and what they did.
For a month after the referendum, I think there was a very heightened feeling in the United Kingdom. Things have calmed down massively since then.
So what happens if it all goes wrong? I mean, we haven't even started the negotiations. You said in 2015, at the Oxford Union, none of us knows what the risks are if we leave the European Union. None of us knows what the risks are if we stay in the European Union.
Right.
So we were left to just, take your bravado and your...
Well, it's very simple.
And your assurances.
No. It's very simple.
We're left to do that.
Very simple. You could never predict the future. Exactly. Whatever side of the referendum
or at
argument,
all, as you said.
Well, anyone that thinks he knows the future should be retired because they should have made a fortune, The real question with that referendum was, should we be responsible as a nation with its own identity for making the key decisions that determine our future, and whether we get them right or get them wrong, genuinely, once every 4 or 5 years, have the chance to hold to account the people who took those decisions? Or do we think our future better to be a small voice as part of a bigger new state? I've been as objective about that as I possibly can be. That's what the referendum was about. And what we opted for, not by a massive margin, but what we opted for was making our own decisions and steering our own ship. And that I believe to be right in all circumstances.